Meanwhile, to retired Navy Commander J.D. Gordon on what military options the president might be considering and might have shared at that meeting. What do you think?
Hey, Neil, thanks for having me on the show. You know, I think our military options are quite limited. The White House does not want to get bogged down in Iraq. Most Americans do not want to get bogged down in Iraq. So I think the two main missions here are, number one, to protect the embassy in Baghdad. That's why the president's sending about 275 troops there to do that. They learned the powerful lesson in Benghazi that they can't leave our diplomatic posts unguarded. So I think that's a smart move to send 275 there. The president's also looking to send about 100 special forces to train, advise, and assist the Iraqi military so they can help with operational planning and also intelligence sharing.
We're told these F-18s that are surveilling the area are not your usual type of jets you use to do that, that they're loud. Our defense people tell us that they're meant to be noticed. Is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The F-18s are basically collecting intelligence right now. Basically, the targeting is a key issue for northern Iraq, where the ISIS is operating. They've got about a third of Iraq right now. And we do have an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf. We've got the George H.W. Bush there. And if we did airstrikes, they'd be launched from the carrier. And targeting is a key piece. One of the reasons why the president is backing away from the airstrike idea is because there's a lot of uncertainty about where these top leaders are for ISIS. So if we could target some of their leaders, I think you could see airstrikes in the future, or maybe drone strikes or manned flights from the aircraft carrier.
Do you think just the presence or seeing or hearing these jets intimidates people below?
I do. I think that's one of the reasons they sent the F-18s to do it. I think tactically the administration's doing the wise thing right now, basically defending our embassy and trying to provide some limited support to the Iraqi military. But long term, Neil, I've really got to worry, because the president's plan is to pull out of Afghanistan by 2016. If we pull all of our troops out of Afghanistan, I think the same thing's going to happen there. I think you're going to see the Taliban take over large swaths of Afghanistan. I think they're going to invite al-Qaeda right back in there, and we're going to be back to a pre-9/11 scenario. But
what if al-Qaeda doesn't even know what to make of some of these elements, include some of these ISIS elements? In other words, you don't know who's zooming whom here. There's so many disparate forces, so many bad guys, that the whole region, JD, falls into this confused civil war bedlam.
Neil, you're absolutely right, and it's sad. Basically, al-Qaeda and ISIS and some of these other radical terrorist groups, they're just a symptom. The real cause is this exporting of radical Islam, if you will. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar have spent reportedly about $100 billion over the last 3 decades in exporting radical Islam. That's why you have the Taliban in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They had these madrasas where they just taught boys to read the Quran. No math, no science. What kind of future can you have like that? And by on the other side, you have Iran exporting revolution since 1979. They're supporting a Shia brand of revolution. Yeah. But both the radical Shias in Iran and the radical Sunnis that are being supported by the Saudis, they both have a bullseye on America's back.
I always worry about Saudi Arabia in this. Maybe just speaking as a business nerd here, JD, they're the ones I watch because they're the stability of the region, they're the oil of the region, they're the money of the region, they're the big boss of the region. And if they get concerned, what do? They've already talked about trying to boost production if oil's disrupted. But what else can they do? What do you suspect they will do?
Well, you know, what I hope they do is that they need to start cracking down on some of these radical clerics that are exporting this ideology. Because the ideology that these thugs in ISIS and al-Qaeda are taking advantage of to recruit jihadists. Not just from the Middle East. There's jihadists from Europe. Even one guy from Florida apparently was a suicide bomber there. Amazing. So until the ideology stops, Neil, we're going to continue to see this type of terrorism. And the bullseye is going to be right on our back here.
Well, J.D. Gordon, I always learn so much having you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Meanwhile, he says that the IRS scandal is